Okay, well, why don't we get started? We want to be respectful of everybody's time.
Yeah.
All right, so welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. We're super excited that you're here with us to join us for Van Gies Group's real estate investment webinar. So whatever level you're at in your investment journey, we are excited to share with you some amazing strategies that real estate investors are using to fuel their passive income and retirement goals. My name is John Van Gies. I'm the founder of the Van Gies Group. And just a little bit about me. I've been selling real estate for the past 12 years, most of which has been with Keller Williams. Prior to real estate, I was a jazz guitarist, music teacher, and guitarist for hire with a bunch of bands around town. I also discovered that the only way to make $1 million playing jazz guitar was to start with 2 million and then go on tour. So you can imagine when you're starting a family, you need to figure out some way to make an income. So I played music until I was 30. And it was at this time I was thinking of starting a family with James, that I needed to do something that would allow me that opportunity. So I decided to get my real estate license. And in my first year working part-time, I sold 24 houses. I worked on a team for 4 years. I had a great mentorship there, became a partner, and then continued to grow a team within a team from there. And then decided to launch my own brand with Van Gies Group 3 years ago. As a solo agent with one admin, we were able to hit the 1% the first year we started. And now we're continuing to build on what we have. So we have an operations manager, director of growth and strategy, a buyer showing agent and a buyer agent, investment specialist agent, and myself, the team lead and listing specialist. We're also set to release an entire investment division where our goal is to offer to our clients everything you could possibly need to act and make a decision to invest in real estate. Essentially a one-stop shop for all our client investing needs. We'll offer in-house financing, construction from renovations to new builds from the ground up, property management and leasing specialists, and then of course real estate sales reps that specialize in investing. So we're super excited about that. We'll be releasing more info in the future. I also just acquired an old house on a nice lot in Eldershot that is zoned for mixed use commercial and residential. We're in the process of reverse engineering a building based on specific criteria, and we're going to apply one of the strategies we're talking about today. I'm happy to share that with anyone interested another time. We'll also be documenting that on social media so you can see what goes on behind the scenes. With that being said, I'd like to introduce you to our guest speaker, Jason O'Connor, our in-house real estate investment specialist. Jason currently owns 5 houses and plans on buying a minimum of 6 more this year. And he's flipped multiple houses. He's also only 26. So if he can do it, anyone can do it. So take it away, Jason.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. I'll share my screen in a second here. Okay. All right. First of all, thanks everybody for joining. Middle of the day on a Monday. It's tough to get going, but here we are. So today's topic is how to leverage your debt to buy real estate. So pretty popular conversation right now. A lot of people are getting involved in real estate investments. Canadian investment, almost 50% is in real estate now. So good time to talk about this. Again, as John said, my name is Jason O'Connor. I'm a real estate agent at Keller Williams Edge and the Van Gies Group. I'm also the co-founder of Evolution Construction Management, which is a renovation-based. It's an investment-tailored renovation company. We've kind of streamlined the process from start to finish. We have a set type of finishes and processes that we use to make it a little bit easier on the investor. I started investing in real estate in 2017. I purchased a townhouse in the Niagara region. Ended up selling it just as COVID hit, which was a big mistake. I sold it to the tenants for about $450. I think now it probably would have been worth about $700. But nonetheless, that money was used to create a little more wealth through different opportunities and some of the strategies. One in particular that I will talk about today, a little more in depth. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to cover how to tap into your equity, what two ways mainly that you can actually extract your equity. Why should you do it? Risks, because everybody wants to talk about the risks. The investment strategies, and number 5 is the most important one. This is the strategy that I used in particular to build wealth over the last 24 months. Capital requirements, and then we'll go over a case study, a personal property of mine, a deal that I did in 2020. So interesting statistic here. 45% of Canadians have a mortgage. It was 40% in 2019. This is from Stats Canada. It's a little bit newer. I think it was about 2020, this statistic. I don't have the one from 2021 or 2022. 16% have more than one mortgage. Interesting stat. I mean, if almost half of Canadians have a mortgage, it just kind of, what we're going to talk about with the BRRRR strategy is going to make for an interesting conversation afterwards when we're looking into how much our values have increased over the last really 2 years. I mean, more than that, but over the last 2 years, it's been extremely aggressive. And this strategy will help us learn how we can take that equity that we've built and create a portfolio for ourselves. All right, 2 main ways to tap into your equity. You've got a home equity line of credit, which is where you can borrow up to 65% of your home's equity. It's going to be a secondary mortgage on your property. So you'll keep your main mortgage on the house. This is a separate loan. Typically, rates will be a little bit higher than, for example, a variable rate if you're doing a cash out refinance. But this is a good option if let's say it's your primary residence, you don't want to up your mortgage, but you do want to have the ability to tap into your equity and maybe buy some investment properties, put it into whatever, your tax-free savings account, your Canadian cash account, some sort of investment. And that's probably one of the more popular ways that people extract equity on a primary. A lot of investors will take advantage of the other one, which is a cash out refinance, where you can borrow up to 80%. So that is canceling out your current loan, getting a new loan on your property. And I put fixed versus a variable there, because if you are in a fixed loan, it's going to cost you a little bit. You're going to pay a penalty to break that mortgage. Some banks, if you stay with the same lender, they'll allow you to tack that penalty onto the mortgage, so you don't have to pay it up front. But a lot of investors will take advantage of the variable rates. Obviously, they're a lot lower right now. I think you can probably get like 1.5, 1.9 in that range right now. It just gives you a little more flexibility if you do want to sell, to refinance again. It's probably one of the more popular ways that investors are getting their mortgages right now. So why are we leveraging debt? The question is, people will always say, well, you're going to take on more debt. That's not good. We have in history, the lowest rates right now. And obviously they're going to go up probably on March 2nd. We'll see what happens there. But even if they go up a little bit, the investments will still make sense through, if you're able to extract the equity after you buy a property that needs value add, cash flow, stuff like this we'll get into on the next few slides. But tapping into your equity will allow you to scale your portfolio a lot faster, put your money to work. And liquidity can be a big problem with real estate. If you're buying a property that's turnkey and you're not planning on adding value and extracting the equity, it could be a really long-term play. Real estate's long-term anyways, but this presentation will kind of dive into some ways that you can expedite that process. Interesting quote here: 90% of all millionaires became so through owning real estate. I mean, look at what's happening right now. People that bought a house in maybe the 90s and early 2000s, maybe they paid somewhere around 250K, and just the appreciation that we've seen is incredible. So 4 main risks. We'll say rate increases, again, it's going to be, I think March 2nd will be minimal, but over the next 2 years, we'll definitely see rates go back to, I think fixed rates will be around 3.5% to 4%, maybe not that high, but around that area. So how to hedge against that would be to have a reserve. So when you're investing in real estate, the importance of buying a property that needs work is so that when you do the work, you can extract that equity and keep it as a reserve. If you're doing the process correctly, you'll be able to extract enough money back, hopefully all of the money that you put in, and just keep a piece of it in your bank account. And whatever you want to do with the other extra money, obviously you're going to want to make a return on that. But liquidity problems can be another risk. And if you're going into these deals, typically, if you're using your own money, they'll require a lot of capital. A way to mitigate that would be to partner with somebody else. Joint ventures, we do offer joint ventures. John and I are willing to jump in on deals to get involved and mitigate the amount of money that you're putting in. Not knowing the numbers, this is obviously pretty self-explanatory, but typically when you're buying a house, a lot of real estate agents will say that they understand investing, but maybe they've never gone through it. And if you've never gone through it, it's all theory, and theory is fine. But as you go through the process, you're gonna come across things where, let's say you're budgeting $100,000 for a renovation. You take down the walls and you start to see some mold, or there's water problems. There's always going to be things that you need to be aware of, and that's the importance of knowing the numbers. Adding a contingency fund, because things usually will go wrong, and a renovation is never super basic from start to finish. There's always some things that we have to be cautious about. So that's why I put here, always budget for the worst case scenario. Bump up your numbers. I usually put about a 15% buffer. And I'm prepared for that. And it's happened before where I've actually gone over that, which is not common, but things that I missed when I was in my 15-minute walkthrough, because now we're offering without conditions. So you don't get a lot of time to see every aspect of the home, especially from an inspector, house inspector perspective. So negative cash flow, of course, if you're buying a property, investing in a property that's not making you money, that would be worrisome when the rates go up, because it's just going to be more money out of your pocket. So we'll get into, buying multi-family properties, having more than one tenant, just allows you to hedge that risk and make sure that you will cash flow beyond today's extremely low mortgage rates. All right, investment strategies. Of course, new construction is probably one of the more popular ones. It is hands-off. It's everybody's made money on new construction if they bought in the last, let's say, 15 to 20 years. Appreciation over time. Again, that hands-off aspect, I think, of new construction is the most appealing. And having that deposit structure where it's just a little bit of money up front, you can spread out your deposit potentially over, some of these are 3 or 4 years. The one issue with new construction right now is when you buy today, of course, look at new builds right now. They're not, if they advertise in the 300s, they're probably starting in the mid 4s. But when you're buying today, you're buying at historically low interest rates. If the rates do go up and you're closing in 2024 and we're somewhere around 3.75 with a fixed rate, your value will, just basically it'll drop a bit. So something to be cautious of. You're going to close on probably higher mortgage rates. But again, it's always a good option to get involved in new construction. Low barrier to entry. Different types of investments for resale real estate. So you have your flips, your conversions, additions, and then I put the BRRRR strategy in there, which we'll go over in depth. And then, of course, your turnkey rentals. Just buy them, rent them out right away. Conversions, I think, are one of the more interesting ones, especially now with anything with a separate entrance where there's a potential to add a unit in the basement or rent it out. Those properties typically are getting more money when they're being sold. This is my favorite slide. So probably it definitely is one of the best ways to build wealth through real estate. It kind of overcomes all of the risks to real estate. So things that we're looking for on the purchase, let's skip to this one. When we're purchasing, we're looking for things that we can add value to. So properties that are run down, properties that are in need of some in-depth renovation. Location is a big one. You're not going to be able to refinance at a higher value if you're in the worst area of town. If you're buying if you're going to have the best house on the street, it's obviously not ideal. Conversion opportunities. This is what I was getting at in the other slide. So what I look for when I'm buying, for example, I'll use the city of Welland as an example, because I always talk about Welland. A majority of that city is zoned for multifamily. So you have your RL1 zoning, your RL2, and your RM. Typically, when agents are selling these houses, and I've had this, I'll go through the case study. I had this happen. An agent sold the house with R1 zoning. And I called the city and I said, what is the zoning here? They said it was RL1. So there was a mistake, and this happens, it's very common there. And what RL1 means is it's actually zoned for a duplex with an accessory, so 3 units. And that's been kind of my go-to now as I look for properties in Welland that are zoned incorrectly on the MLS. And you're able to just go in. It's very simple to work with the city there. And you can do that conversion from a single family. You're paying for a single family home, but it's really going to be a conversion into 3 units. And 3 units in Welland is around 900 to 950 range on the refinance. Zoning regulations kind of hand in hand with what I just said. For example, RM, out in that area, and there's some downtown Hamilton that are zoned for apartments. You could get a deal on you could actually pay a little over market value for a single family home, but knowing what that property can give you in the future with a conversion, with maybe a build in the future, that is where the real value is. So of course, through the renovation, you're going to increase the value. Make sure that the renovation is done with a high quality. I think that's self-explanatory, but don't pick the cheapest contractor. Pick somebody who knows what they're doing, who understands exactly what is going on with the house and where you're going to see the value. You don't want to put all your money into light fixtures, for example. It's not going to extract you the most value. So your kitchens, your bathrooms, your floors, your paint, stuff that's really appealing to the tenant, number one, and to the appraiser. That's where you're going to want to put all your money. And again, I put conversion opportunities. So through the renovation, if there's a permit process, again, through Evolution with the company that I own, we will take care of this process for you from start to finish. Permit process, we have, again, our standard features that we have for investors. So you don't have to go through the store and pick all your finishes and all that stuff. It's all picked for you. Just allows you to continue what you do best, and that's invest in real estate. Through the RED process, proper background check. Of course, everybody knows somebody that has invested in real estate and had an issue with a tenant. Seems like a popular dinner conversation. Proper background checks. We will take care of all this. We'll find the tenants for you. We'll vet them. What I look for is there's an app called Rentify where the person will have to put a little bit of their information in, and what it will show you is it'll give them a Rentify score. So essentially, think tenant horror stories are due to a lack of research on that actual person, background check and all that stuff. So Rentify, what it does is it tells you, okay, this person might be making, $10,000 a month, but they're spending 12. So it'll give them a lower score. So things like this, and they're legal, obviously. It's actually recommended by the Hamilton Multifamily Housing Board. Just allows you to really cover your bases when you're picking a tenant, making sure that they are going to take care of your property. Of course, this is a big investment for you, but also keep paying rent. Because that's if they're not paying rent, none of this process is going to work. Also, of course, it's going to decrease your debt load. So the rent comes before the refinance, because when you do go to refinance, if you're refinancing an empty house, they will see that entire mortgage as a debt load on your individual qualification. So by renting it out, it actually lowers that debt service, allows you to refinance potentially more money if that was a barrier. And cash flow, increased appraisal, kind of what I said. Increased appraisal that's the most important thing, is how if a higher appraisal makes sense, you want to go as high as you can, just as long as the property continues to cash flow. Okay, so I put contact mortgage brokers. Sometimes the banks will have their own lenders that they work with, which is fine. But this is the part where you get all your money back. So you have the option to pull through a HELOC, like I said, home equity line of credit, or through a cash out refinance. Now, historically, I've always done a cash out refinance. It allows you to take all of that money back into your bank account essentially within a couple of weeks. And it's all tax-free. Even the surplus, it's all tax-free. And the best part is taking that money and recycling it into a new property or another investment, and that you're free to do whatever you want with that money. Of course, you're going to have to pay down the increased mortgage amount if you do a cash out refinance. But that's why I said if your tenants are covering everything after the refinance, then it definitely makes sense to extract that equity. Capital requirement. All right, so this one's a little confusing. The range can be, it depends on what you're doing. It could be pretty large, the range, but obviously 20% down is what you're going to want to put on investments, budgeting for your closing costs, your land transfer tax. rental budget, if you're doing cosmetic, I always say budget around 60,000. Could be less, could be more, but just I guess I also put Evolution here. Evolution Construction Management, we can go in on a walkthrough. We need about an hour, and we'll be able to give you a quote within 48 hours. But the average range, yeah, cosmetic rentals are going to run you about, let's just say 60 grand. Might be less, again, might be more. Conversion, if you're doing like a single family to a triplex, you might be around the 120 to 130 range. Single family to fourplex might run you all the way up to 200. And now, again, like I said earlier on, these renovations, you have to kind of know where to put your money. If you're going to spend it all on, things that are not going to extract you the most on your refinance, then it's not the best decision. And don't use all your capital in an investment. That's kind of pretty self-explanatory. You're not going to want to put all of your money into the rental budget, and if there is something that happens, maybe you have to hold the property for a little bit longer because your closing costs, because you can't find a tenant. That could be detrimental. So this is a property that I purchased in 2020 in Welland. I bought it for $355. The average price in Welland at that time, which is crazy to think, was actually $346. So I was worried that I was paying a little bit more, a little bit too high, and it ended up being a really good investment for me. But through the renovation process, I actually did a lot of the work. I shouldn't say myself because I'm not very handy, but I had people helping me out, friends, family, coming down every weekend, just going through the process of, painting. We did new floors, kitchen, just your basic cosmetic renovation. We added a panel to the upper unit, made it into a legal duplex. So this was another deal where it was advertised as R1 zoning. And I knew that it was RL1, so zoned for a duplex. And so I felt a little more comfortable buying that. Again, it was slightly above market value, but I knew through that conversion that I was able to get a really good refinance on it. So yeah, I did the renovation, and I think renovation took a little bit longer, obviously, because we did it ourselves, but it was maybe 5 or 6 months, something like that. Ended up renting out the main floor for $1,900 plus hydro. Upper unit was $1,400 plus hydro. It took me like 60 days to find the tenants. But yeah, no regrets. They've been awesome. The refinance, I actually had TD Bank come in and appraise the property at $540. And within 7 days, I called my mortgage broker, who sent Scotiabank's appraiser in, and they appraised it up $642. So within 7 days, you see the discrepancy in appraisal values. But that brought the mortgage up to $513 from I forget what it was, $260, I believe, $265. So yeah, increasing your debt load. But I was able to borrow $244,000 from that property, which was tax-free. And on top of the money that was put in, which the down payment plus the reno, plus all the carrying costs, closing fees, there was a $103,600 surplus. So I can't really say that's profit to the bank. They don't look at that as profit, but to me, I look at that as new money. So that's money that's coming in, never had it before, not paying tax on it. And the repeat process is the best part. That money has been, that $244,000 has been put into a couple other deals, maybe 3 or 4 deals, creating over $850,000 in equity. So eligibility for this process, I mean, anybody, if you have equity, if you can tap into equity, you will be a good candidate for this. We work with a mortgage broker. I put his info bottom right corner, Keith Tinson. If you want, take a photo of that. He's been able to really help me through the process of understanding what I'm getting into with different types of mortgages, when to refinance. He's been an awesome tool. But yeah, consult with the mortgage broker. They will conduct an appraisal on your home and give you an idea of how much you can actually extract from there. And then they will pre-qualify you for your new property purchase, give you a range of what you can afford, what you can buy, and then we'll start searching. And again, the search process is it might take a while because the market is super competitive right now. There's a lot of people looking for investment properties. But at the Van Gees Group, we always look at off-market opportunities with the buyer letter, John's buyer letter. It's been a great tool. And, we're looking to do that out in Niagara region, just hunting for investment deals, some multifamily, some conversions. So if you are interested in those, just please reach out. We can put you on the list. And here's my info. Again, take a photo of it, send me an email, send me a text. We'd be happy to chat with you guys and see exactly what's going on with your situation, what you want to do, how you want to scale, and we can work with you on that. So thank you guys. I appreciate everybody for coming out and listening. if anybody has any questions, I don't know how to get to the chat. But if anybody has any questions, just throw it in the chat box, or you can call us or email us later on.